Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Brittany, this is the Brittany React Show, and on this show we talk all things entertainment news and movie news. Today we actually do have a lot of really interesting movie news to go over, mainly some box office news, but we're also going to talk about Wish's reviews, which are not that great. But yeah, the box office, pretty terrible, not gonna lie, both for the Hunger Games movie, which we're going to talk about. This might affect Rachel Zegler's career along with the whole Snow White fiasco. But of course, we're going to talk about the Marvels and how it had a terrible, terrible second weekend drop. Like, literally one of the worst. So there's a lot to go over on this stream. So this should be a fun one. And we do have WTF news at the very end. So if you stick around past the member question, you will get WTF news. Because I know you guys like that. This is Thanksgiving weekend, so I do want to remind you guys right off the top that I will not be having a stream this Wednesday and Thursday because obviously I'll be spending time with my family, doing Thanksgiving things, that sort of thing. But we do have a stream tomorrow, and we do have a stream on Friday. Friday's stream will actually be my live review for Wish. And we are going to talk about Wish later on in this stream, but if you guys want to see my live review of what I thought about Wish, come here on Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time like normal, and we will talk about Wish then. But I just want to let you guys know we will not have a live stream Wednesday or Thursday. So, just updating you guys. How are you guys doing though? Hi Joshua Munn, hi Nate Lawrence, hi Desi B, hi Cheyenne, hi The Free Rocket Man, hi Jessica H, hi Lysandra, hi Rocky Desert Flower, and thank you to each and every one of you who comes to my show every day. I deeply, deeply appreciate it. Joshua Munn, yeah, the whole year has been a disaster for Hollywood. Although, if you guys actually want to go back, like really, really far back in my, like one of my earlier videos that I made this year, in fact, I think this is a video I made like almost a year ago. I looked ahead. I think I titled the video 2023 could be a bad year for movies. If you guys want to go back and rewatch that, I actually called a lot of these flops. Like I called this year being a bad year for Hollywood, and boy was I right. I was very right. So yeah, I feel pretty good about my predictions coming true, although it means bad news for the state of Hollywood though. All right. So let's just get straight into it. So, of course, we're going to start with box office news because, yeah, The Marvels continues to be an unmitigated disaster. Just the absolute worst. I mean, I do know what went wrong. I did post an entire video you guys should watch. It's called The Marvels Was a Predictable Flop, Here's Why. So I'm not going to get over, like, why I thought this movie flopped, but I will go over, like, where Marvel maybe could go from here, or, like, I'm just going to explain to you just how bad it's doing, because, like, it's not just doing bad. It's doing, like, major, like, flop embarrassment bad. But again, I'm about to explain. So you guys know last week it opened to 47 million, which was already pretty bad enough. Like, that's already an embarrassing low opening. How embarrassing? Well, it's lower than The Incredible Hulk, which came out like, what was it, in 2009? And that came out with like 55 million. So somehow this movie managed to open lower than even the freaking Incredible Hulk. That's how badly it's doing. And like, not even taking into account like inflation and all that. So it's bad on its own. With inflation, it probably looks even worse. Caldonia says, I predicted 2023 to be the year of exposure, and it has been. There's more to go. Yeah, I think 2023 has been the year of letting Hollywood kind of see all of the issues that we've been kind of talking about online. Like, but I feel like 2023 has become the year where, like, Hollywood has to notice that it's kind of falling apart, and they can't just like stick their head in the ground anymore and pretend it's not happening, because it's affecting the box office. They're getting lots of like just regular general audience members upset with them. Like, I don't know how many boycotts Disney has at this point. They've got everyone on the left and right boycotting them at this point. It's really bad. I've never seen the entire industry really in such a bad state, but we're just focusing on Marvel's right now. We are going to go to the Hunger Games in a second. But anyway, Again, we even got like articles from Variety saying that the MCU is no longer a bulletproof franchise. I mean, when you're getting like huge trades coming at you saying you're no longer bulletproof, I mean, that's awful. That means every other company is going to smell blood in the water now. Every other company and outlet is going to feel more emboldened to be like, you know what, the Marvel's kind of crap now. Because before, they were so, like, I feel like the press was, like, especially a lot of critics, because I wanted to keep their access, were, like, so kind with Marvel, always. Like, they treated Marvel with kid gloves, whereas, you know, the media treated, like, every other franchise, especially DC, with, like, I would almost say, like, knives for gloves, you know? Like, just the exact opposite. So the fact that we got Variety throwing out hit piece after hit piece at Marvel just shows you how fast they have fallen in grace. Because this would not have happened even just a few years ago. This would not have happened. Joshua says Wonka is also going to flop. Yeah, I think the whole December, like, really, the whole Christmas season is not looking good. It's not looking good at all. But going back to the Marvels, it just dropped 78% in its second weekend. 78%. Do you know how bad of a drop that is for a movie in its second weekend? Yes, it's normal for blockbusters to have like huge drops in its second weekend. Like anything in like 60% range, even sometimes low 70s, which is really bad, but like that's typical. Almost 80% is abysmal. That's shocking. Especially since the opening was so low to begin with. It's not like this movie opened crazy high and it's having this big drop. No, it opened low and it's still having a crazy drop. That means that what's happening to this movie is not just, oh, there's a lot of people angry with it. What's happening to this movie is just straight apathy. People don't care about it. People don't even care to, like, check it out to see if they hate it. They're just not talking about it. Like, really, the only people I'm seeing talk about this movie online are, like, the people who already talk about Marvel. It's the geeky space, the geeks online. No one in the general audience seems to care about this movie at all. It's just, Marvel has completely lost the trust of the general movie-going public entirely. That's what this drop is telling me. It's telling me even the people who did go see this movie, they're not telling all their friends to go and see it. They're not going back to go rewatch it over and over again. This movie was just dead on arrival. Just dead on arrival. Almost an 80% drop. That's terrible. That's awful. Angel Barrera, thank you so much for the super chat. It was so underwhelming that it united a nation. I know, right? Something that can't seem to unite us. I mean, we can't be united over anything, but it seems like a lot of people are at least united over this movie, and it seemed like no one wanted to go see it. That's very true. Yeah, Q Hefner, it's just indifference. Like, I would say indifference at this point is worse than hatred, because you can fix hatred. You know what they say about hatred is just like love, essentially, just, you know, a different perspective. No. This is apathy. This is straight up no one cares. That's even harder to fix for Marvel. Again, if you guys really want to understand how bad a 78% drop is, it's worse than Quantumania's drop. Quantumania dropped almost 70%, so that's like almost 10% less than Quantumania. And even though I don't like the Marvels, I still think this movie is at least better than Quantumania. So that's why I think this movie doing so poorly isn't just because the Marvels wasn't that good, and it's not good. But I also think it's because just the general perception of Marvel is so awful at the moment that the Marvels is paying for the sins of all of the other things that came up before it. It's paying for the sins of Quantumania, She-Hulk, Eternals, all of that. And Thor Love and Thunder. That was terrible. But again, this is doing worse than The Flash. I mean, you know, we've talked about The Flash a lot on my channel and how embarrassing that did. This is doing even worse than The Flash. And The Flash, was doing about as badly as Morbius. We're talking Morbius levels now. This is how badly this movie is flopping. Morbius levels! Alex says, my daughter wants to see it, and I told her, okay, I feel bad for the Marvels, so I'll take you. Oh no, Alex. You shouldn't see a movie just out of pity. I mean, go see what you want, but like, what a reason. Ethereal Dragon says, same thing happened with The Last Jedi in China. Oh yeah, abroad, international number is terrible. I think they're losing interest abroad, like Marvel's losing interest abroad, probably even faster than they're losing interest here domestically. And they're losing interest pretty fast, so that's terrible. MRX says, I think the Marvels will do really well on Disney Plus. It's possible. It's possible, but I also feel like maybe it'll do really well for like 1 week and then stop, because I don't think a lot of people are just going to keep rewatching this movie. It's really not that good. But again, 78% drop, literally one of the worst in history. It's worse. It's actually the worst of all time for any superhero film. So think of any terrible superhero movie you've seen, and this is a worse drop than that. So that's embarrassing. Iman Vellani, who of course plays Miss Marvel, she had a very great response when asked about the Marvel's box office. She said, I don't want to focus on something that's not even in my control, because what's the point? That's for Bob Iger. The box office has nothing to do with me. I'm happy with the finished product, which I think this is a very political answer, but it's the best answer she could give. Obviously, the box office, I guess, isn't entirely up to her. She shouldn't be concerned with it, even though if she does want to be asked back and have a season 2, maybe she should be concerned with it a little bit, but it's still a good response, because this box office is terrible. And the fact that the actors are even being asked about, how do you feel about how terrible your movie is flopping? Marvel actors were never asked about, oh, do you think your movie's gonna flop before, when they were promoting something? I've never seen someone even be asked something like this. This is a great response, but the fact that she was even asked this is kind of crazy to me. I know, right? Poor Iman, why were they bothering her with, oh, how do you feel about your movie flopping? Who was asking this? Nobody that you know says it's actually pitiful to see Marvel collapse slowly. It's not slowly, though. It's actually a pretty quick collapse when you think about it. I mean, they grew up their universe since 2008, and they peaked in 2019. And I would say in just less than 5 years, they've undone the goodwill they developed over almost 15. It's crazy how quickly they lost all hype and trust in their audience so quickly. I actually think their fall off was pretty fast. Dr. Shonda says, did anyone ask RDJ about Iron Man 3? LOL. Right? Imagine an interviewer asking Robert Downey Jr., how do you feel about Iron Man 3 not being so well received? RDJ would not have, dealt with that very nicely. So I don't know why they're doing this to Iman, but whatever. It was a great response. But anyway, one of the reasons, I'm not going to go over all the reasons why I thought the Marvels flopped. Again, I did just release a whole video. I think I've actually released a couple videos talking about why I thought this movie flopped. So you guys can go and check that out. But I do just want to mention that, again, I don't think that the reason this movie is doing as poorly as it is just because of this movie alone. I think this movie is paying for the sins of all of these other projects that I'm showing here, and even others that aren't, like She-Hulk. I think this is a huge MCU problem, not just the Marvels problem. I don't know if they're going to ask Brie Larson back or any of these other characters. Maybe they can ask them back in some small, maybe minor role in another team-up film, but I honestly would not greenlight a Captain Marvel 3. I think that a large part of the interest for the first movie was probably just because it came out right before Endgame. I think the overall interest in superhero movies, it's declined to such a point because of all these poor projects that I think that's part of why this movie didn't do too well, and why I think if they tried to do a third one, it would probably do even worse. I just think we're in an era of diminishing returns here, where I think the only thing general audiences are really going to care about now is if you bring back Spider-Man, or if you have someone super huge that's already well known and well beloved. You can't do anyone that's already got a mixed, reputation, kind of like Captain Marvel. You can't do someone people don't know. I think Marvel's gotten to the point where they really just need their A+ superheroes that are charismatic and likable. That's all they can work with at this point. And they did it to themselves. They really did it to themselves. They tried to expand. They tried to get new different kinds of superheroes. I mean, that's what they were doing with Eternals, but I thought Eternals was really bad, like really, really bad. Again, the Moon Weary, what was that? But anyway, it's shocking how just a few really bad projects really brought about the collapse of the MCU so quickly. I mean, really, it just happened in a few short years. Angel Barrera, thank you again for the super chat. Hollywood should give up and give us a movie with Jonathan Majors, Ezra Miller, and Jared Leto. Oh no. Yeah, if they did release that movie, it would put the genre to sleep for a bit. I think that would kill the genre for good. I feel like there would be, the only people who would see that movie would be like people who are going ironically. Like that would just be like the anti superhero movie. I don't know. But thank you for the super chat, Angel Barrera. But anyway, moving on. So, Marvel knows that they have a problem. They know that they've got to fix things. So that's why they've already delayed things. They announced this pretty much as soon as they saw the box office numbers for the Marvels. So now the only movie that's coming out Marvel-wise, or at least for the MCU, next year is Deadpool 3. They delayed all of their other movies to 2025. Now, I understand this makes a lot of sense. You release only one, movie next year to try to give people a break to miss you again. But here's the problem with this and why I'm still a little bit nervous. A, this puts a lot of pressure on Deadpool 3 to perform super well if this is going to be your only movie for the year. And you guys know I'm a little nervous it's going to underperform, at least compared to expectations. And then B, unfortunately for the MCU, Sony still exists and they're releasing stuff. So if you actually look at what Sony's releasing, and next year they're releasing Madam Web, which I just released my reaction to the trailer, please watch it. They're releasing Kraven the Hunter, and they're releasing Venom 3. So they're releasing 3 comic book movies next year that I don't think any one of them is going to be received well or do well. So yeah, the MCU is taking a break and they delayed all their movies, or most of their movies, to 2025. But then we still have the Sony Marvel movies. I don't know. I feel like it's just not enough. I feel like and on top of these Sony Marvel movies, you still have a lot of the Disney Plus series too that they have to release, like Echo and Ironheart and Agatha and all of this other stuff. And I'm just like, I feel like there's just too much superhero content coming out, even with these delays that they've got, that I think people are just going to be well and over it. By 2025, even movies that if you release this year and they would have done well, I think by 2025, even those same movies will probably do it half as well, just because people will be so over it. That's one of the reasons why I'm nervous about Deadpool. I really think Deadpool 3 is oof. I hope it makes money. I hope it does. But I'm nervous. And the fact that it's the only MCU movie coming out next year, again, that's a lot of pressure. So we'll see what happens. But with the Marvels performing like it is, and then the release slate coming up, that with all these mid-movies coming out, I don't know. I don't see the MCU turning around anytime soon, even if Deadpool 3 is a huge hit. There's just too much going against it at the moment. But what do you guys think? Are you guys more optimistic than I am? Am I being too much of a doomer? I really want to know what you guys think about this. Prototype says, no one will watch the Sony movies. I think Deadpool 3 will be fine. So you think that the Sony movies are just so dead on arrival that they might as well not even release? I don't know. I mean, even for how bad that Madam Web trailer was, and I don't know if it's going to be a hit or not. It probably won't be. It got enough of attention that it's already spawned memes. Like the Morbius movie. Morbius flopped. No one really saw Morbius. In fact, Morbius flopped twice. But still, the legend of Morbius lives on. Like, there's still, like, countless Morbius memes on the internet today. I mean, we still talk about it in my live stream. So even if not a lot of people see these movies, if they're bad enough, they'll make an impression. Because that's just how things are. Jao Pedro says the film theorists have a new video on the MCU reboot. Did you see it? No, I haven't, but I did notice that they uploaded. Maybe if we don't have enough to talk about tomorrow, I might react to it tomorrow. We'll see. Yeah, I'm surprised Madam Web even got made. Like, what were they thinking? Seriously, what were they thinking? Very, very strange. Joshua Munn says, Marvel Studios Spider-Man 4, there will be more connections to the Sony Spider-Man universe, paving the way for a potential merger of the MCU and SSU. Okay, maybe they'll do that. Maybe they'll merge the Spider-Man universe with the MCU to save it. Just because Spider-Man is so popular, regardless of what's happening with Marvel. But here's why I think that might not happen. I think Sony, and maybe Tom Holland, I think if they're smart, they're probably looking at the mess that's going on at Disney Marvel right now, and they're thinking, why in the world would we continue to associate our creme de la creme character? Literally, Spider-Man is holding up that entire studio. Why would they risk tainting their golden goose by still keeping Spider-Man, Tom Holland's Spider-Man, in the MCU? Now that they've done No Way Home, they're at a unique point where they could kind of spin off and do their own thing. I don't know. If you guys remember, in 2019, I believe it was, or maybe it was 2018, we almost had Tom Holland out of the MCU. Like, there was a big debate between Disney and Sony over whether to even keep him in the MCU. And then Tom Holland apparently convinced Bob Iger to make it happen. So, Tom Holland was already almost out of the MCU already. I think it could totally happen again. I could totally see some sort of report coming out next year where we find out that, like, Sony doesn't really want Spider-Man 4 to be associated with the MCU and they just want to, like, focus on building the Spider-Man universe. I don't know if that's going to happen for sure. I haven't heard anything or seen any sources or, like, scoops or anything, but just as someone who covers this stuff and watches it very closely and has been very good at predicting things, mind you, I can see that happening. Q Hefner says the IP is stale. It's past its expiration date. X-Men animation got them to the dance and they forgot. Yeah, Marvel needs X-Men bad. If they mess up X-Men, they're done. They're just done. They need them terribly. Now let's go on to talk about the Hunger Games movie. So you guys know, I actually saw this movie recently and I did a whole review. And I actually really liked this movie. I know it's divisive. I know not everyone liked it. I realize that the opinion is a lot more mixed than I was expecting. But I genuinely really liked this movie a lot. So I was surprised to see the mixed reception. But it's not just getting a mixed reception, it's also getting low box office. It opened with just $44 million domestically. That's nothing. That's really, really bad, actually. In fact, it has a $100 million budget. Now, that's not bad. That's actually a really good budget for this movie. In fact, having seen it and knowing how many real sets that they filmed on, I'm like, how in the world was this only $100 million, but then Disney, all their movies are like $300 million? How does this make sense? But anyway, it's still really, this is a really, not great opening even for that low budget, especially considering the fact that this is actually the lowest opening for any movie within the Hunger Games franchise. So, I mean, that's kind of expected, to be fair. I mean, as I've told you guys, I was a little hesitant even as a former major Hunger Games fan, just because it didn't have Katniss, didn't have Peeta, didn't have, the original cast. So I wasn't expecting this to open, like, as high as the original, but the fact that it didn't even get close is a little embarrassing. I mean, when we look at the openings here, these are the openings for all of the Hunger Games films. The Catching Fire movie, which actually did the best, opened to almost $160 million. That's actually pretty crazy. The last one actually opened the least with Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2 with only $102 million. That's interesting. But anyway, even though the lowest one opened with $100 million, this is still like way, way more than the $44 million that the Hunger Games Songbird and Snakes movie opened to. Like way, way significantly less. So I'm sure Lionsgate was hoping for more. I'm sure everyone was hoping for more. But it just did not happen. Kana says, I guess the Hunger Games fandom is dead. Well, something interesting about this movie is because, I told you guys I like to look at the audience demographics on who sees these movies, but apparently the majority of the audience who saw this movie actually skewed very young, which means a lot of the people like me who were teens when the last series came out, like a lot of people, we didn't come back. Like a lot of the OG fans apparently didn't come back. They only really got like the new fans. So that's interesting. I don't know why a lot of the old fans didn't want to come back for this new movie. Maybe it's just because it didn't have the same cast, or maybe The Hunger Games is just like a franchise that's well past its expiration date. I feel like that could be the case. I'm not sure. But this is a much lower opening than I'm sure they were expecting. Hugh Hefner says, all they have is nostalgia, no new ideas. Maybe that's it. Maybe we're just starting to get like nostalgia fatigue. Is that a thing? Like, can people just get tired of nostalgia? Because I feel like maybe, or what if this movie or the original franchise series is not even old enough to be nostalgic? I mean, when did the last movie come out? Didn't it come out in like 2014, something around there? I mean, it hasn't even been 10 years yet. So maybe it needed more time. I also feel like the whole YA dystopian genre is also not that old, because the Divergent films were still coming out like in the mid-2010s. So I think maybe it just needed more time. Maybe it could have been more nostalgic if they had waited like another 5-10 years or something. I don't know. But yeah, this is a very low opening, even for a new spin-off of The Hunger Games. Why do you guys think this movie didn't open bigger? I'm curious. Joshua Munn says, Hunger Games fandom has been dead for 10 years. The book this is based on didn't sell well either. Yeah, I did hear that fans did really like the book. To be honest, again, I feel like I'm on my own little island here because I really liked this movie. But I can't deny it didn't do very well, or it's not doing very well. Maybe it'll leg it out like Elemental, but I highly doubt it, mainly because this movie got a B+ cinema score. So, which, as you guys know, means this movie was, a lot of people who saw it didn't really care for it that much. A B+ is actually not that great for this kind of a movie. So I highly doubt it'll have legs like Elemental did. So it's probably not going to be very profitable, if profitable at all. So I don't know. This is, again, as Joshua said earlier, this is really bad for the entire industry. How many times have we talked about on this show that, like, oh, this movie flopped, oh, this movie is underperforming? I know some people in my comments or whatever have accused me of being like, oh, Brittany, why are you being negative? Why are you talking about these movies not doing well? And I'm like, well, there's a lot of movies not doing well. I talk about the movies when they do well, like Barbie did really well, covered Barbie like crazy. But unfortunately, there's just a lot of movies that are coming out that are not doing well. And I think something that really interests me about the state of the industry right now is that it's going through a major transformation period, where not just the fact that I think people are getting tired of the old IPs and people are ready for new IPs, but I also think that just in general, people are not gravitating towards movies as entertainment like they used to. Like, I think for a while, just because there weren't many other options for entertainment, people would be like, oh, I'm bored, let's just go to the movies, or let's just, watch something on streaming even. But now I feel like it's like people aren't really gravitating towards going to the movies at all. Like, unless it's like some huge Barbenheimer level event. It's like people are just like, I'll see that on streaming maybe. Or maybe I could just stay home and, I don't know, watch a YouTube video or scroll through TikTok. Like, I feel like it's just the general importance of movies is waning, and I find all of these trends together to be very interesting. That's why I talk about this stuff. Ryu says, I have to really want to see a movie to go to a theater. I think you're not alone, Ryu. I think you're becoming, or you probably already are, part of the majority. I think that's how a lot of people are. I think it's becoming like, if a movie doesn't have FOMO, if it's not a major event, and none of these movies apparently could become major events, they're just not going to do well. I don't think The Marvels was a major event. Wish is not becoming a major event, so that's probably why it's not doing well. The Hunger Games never really got the huge amount of hype the old ones got, so that's why it's not doing well. I I think it's as crazy as it sounds, especially probably to like, especially some older executives who still really want to believe in just the purity of the art of cinema is enough. But I really think people need some sort of like hype factor. Like, I really think that's a huge part of what gets people going to the movies these days. Yes, I agree, Joshua. The streaming wars killed the theaters. Dr. Shonda says, also, since everything ends up on streaming, why pay the price of a movie ticket when you're already paying for 2 to 3 streaming services? Exactly! And these streaming services are getting hella expensive because they keep raising their prices. And then everything's really becoming expensive, not just streaming services. So if you're like, oh, I really want some entertainment, but do I want to spend like $20 to go see this movie that might just be mid? Because remember, we're still in a mid-ocalypse, as I'm calling it. A lot of these movies have just been mid. Like, not even, it's not just my own personal opinion either. I've been paying attention to a lot of these cinema scores for movies that have been coming out this year, and a lot of them have been getting in the B range. Like, it's not, I don't think it's normal for this many blockbusters to be in the B range or lower unless it's like a horror movie. So the fact that we keep getting all these blockbusters that are like B plus, I mean, that just means not only are not a lot of people going to the theaters as much as they used to, but the people who are going, a lot of the times they're not even enjoying what they see when they get there, which is not going to encourage them to keep going back. So it's a whole problem. It's a flop-ocalypse, exactly, Black Star. But I'm calling it a mid-ocalypse, because a lot of these movies are just mid. They're not even, like, terrible, really. Some of them are, like the Marvels, but, or Quantumania, but, like, no. A lot of these movies are just kind of mid. Taylor Evans says, have you seen Matt Damon's view on streaming and people not risking movies anymore due to streaming? It's like a Wings interview. Yes, I've seen Matt Damon on Hot Ones. He did talk about the whole how streaming changed the industry. Yeah, he brings up a lot of great points. I recommend you guys go watch that as well. But yeah, he talks about how basically streaming transformed everything, and that's why movies suck now. Except he said it in a much more political way than that. But anyway, I did just want to bring up what's going on with the Hunger Games here and the Marvels. I also wanted to bring up the fact that since the Hunger Games is not doing well, and the fact that, of course, Rachel Zegler is still caught up in a mirage of controversies over Snow White, the controversy over this movie refuses to die down, by the way. Like, those comments, man, she got people pissed. Like, people still click on this stuff. Like, I don't know. Like, I know she came across really annoying in these interviews. I get it. But my God, like, she still gets people heated. Still. I mean, the fact that the Hunger Games isn't doing well and she's still, in the middle of all these Snow White controversies, and the fact that apparently Disney's, like, having to do a lot of reshoots to try to fix this movie now, and, like, they had to delay Snow White a year to try to fix it, and they've got these weird CGI trolls. I'm just like, oh no. I don't know. I just don't know if it's even possible at this point if Rachel Zegler can turn her career around. She really needed the Hunger Games movie to do really well and be received really well to try to, like, at least make up for what's going to happen with Snow White. But if if the Hunger Games flops and it's not getting great reviews, which it isn't, and then the very next thing that she's got is the Snow White movie, I mean, I feel like it's kind of over for her. I don't feel like it's fair to say the entire reason this movie is underperforming is because of her. But I do know a number of people in my chat who said that they refuse to see the Hunger Games movie because you don't like Rachel Zegler. So if these movies start flopping, Disney, not just Disney executives, but executives all over Hollywood are going to think, oh, Rachel Zegler is poison. People aren't going to see our movie if we put her in there. So, I mean, she really needed this Hunger Games movie to do well, because now that it's not, and she still has the Snow White movie coming out, it's not looking good for her. And she just got started with her career too. Like, she got started in a Steven Spielberg movie, which also flopped. And then she was in a Shazam movie, which also flopped. And then now she was in a Hunger Games movie, which also flopped. Like, she has not really been in a hit yet, even though she's been in some pretty big movies. The only thing that she's got coming out is the Snow White movie and Spellbound, which is actually made by the same guy. John Lasseter, who left Pixar, so she's going to be in another animated movie. We'll see how this goes, but I have a feeling that's probably not going to do much. But basically, her biggest movie coming out after The Hunger Games is Snow White. I don't really see a huge turnaround for her career here. It started off so promising. She got an Oscar nomination for West Side Story. Again, a Steven Spielberg movie. And she got an Oscar nomination. Like, that's like what any actress would dream of to, like, debut in their career. Like, that's, like, such a great way to start your acting career. And in just a few short movies, it's like, oh man, what happened here? This is really bad. This is like, she never really had any chance. I mean, look at these. That's a bad run. From West Side Story, which, again, even though it was critically well received, didn't do well, to Shazam, then to Hunger Games, to Snow White. That is just a bad run of movies. Just a really bad run. But what do you guys think? Pretty Princess, oh, thank you for being a member for 3 months. I really appreciate it. We'd rather watch you talk about the movies together than give these corporations more money at this point. Oh, I'm glad you enjoy watching me. I know, it's so funny because, like, when you guys watch my live streams, especially when they go on long, like I think today's is probably going to, that the more time you guys watch me, the less time you're watching Hollywood stuff. So, you know, you're just, I guess, proving my point even more. I am going to see Miyazaki's movie, Taylor. I'm very excited for it. Astari says, I get it and didn't agree with her, but I think people are way too harsh on her. There's so many bigger problems in the world, and I think this just says a lot about people being overly judgmental. Here's what I think. I think people got really upset about these comments Rachel Zegler made, not just because of what she said. I really think this was more like the straw that broke the camel's back. This just kind of happened to come after really, I think, a long period of time of people like increasingly voicing their frustrations about all of these changes like coming to these remakes, especially coming from Disney, that when we finally got an interview from one of the actual actors, like, spewing all these talking points about how she didn't like the original, I think it like triggered a lot of people who were already upset about other things, and they all decided to latch on to her and just hate on Rachel Zegler specifically, even though I think their anger is about more than just her. But yeah, I think that's what happened. Vincent Hull says Snow White must be canceled. They're never going to do that. I think they're just going to try to reshoot it, re-edit it, try to do what they can, and it's going to make that movie super, super expensive, and it's going to flop really bad. It's probably going to be in a competition with the Marvels on what's going to flop the worst. But we'll see. Jorge Barrios, thank you so much for the super chat. I'm surprised the actor from Snow White played the prince. Can't stand her after her comments about maybe we should cut the entire prince scenes out. She acts like she's the next Tom Cruise. I don't think she was saying that she wants to cut the prince's scenes out. She was saying Disney might cut the prince's scenes out, which they might. I don't think they will at this point just because she made that comment. But that's what I think she was talking about there. I do think that she has, for someone who has just, joined, she's like fresh in this industry. Again, I just showed you her IMDb. She has not really done a whole lot. She's still pretty like new to this industry. For someone who is very new to this industry, she does have a lot of like very strong opinions about, companies and even, how pay structures should go, and she just has a lot of very strong opinions for someone who's very new to the industry, which I think is probably also not helping her. Not just from like casual audiences, but I also think she's getting people within the industry annoyed with her too. But anyway, Evil Connor says it almost seems like Disney wanted that hate on Zegler, so the hate wouldn't be on them for the non-dwarves stuff. I did see some people say like they think that Disney intentionally wanted Rachel Zegler to go out there and like shout out about how progressive the movie is. Like they thought that would be positive marketing. I don't know if that's true. That sounds like a conspiracy theory. But if it is true that they told her to say these things and act this way, was that a miscalculation on their end? A huge miscalculation. Taylor Evans, thank you so much for the super chat. Just happy I caught you live finally. Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad you guys are so kind and so supportive. But anyway, moving on from this story, because we have talked about it a lot. We still got to talk about Wish. We've got to talk about Wish, guys. So, Wish has debuted with a 64% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is actually not terrible. It's pretty mixed to positive, except the Rotten Tomato meter is actually only going down. It's now at 54%, which is actually the lowest Rotten Tomato score for a Disney animated movie since Chicken Little. Chicken Little, y'all. And now, I haven't seen Chicken Little in a while. I feel like I might have nostalgia-covered goggles with that movie, because I think the last time I saw that movie, I think I literally was a kid. So I don't remember that movie being that terrible, but I know that movie is considered like one of Disney's worst, even though I liked it as a kid. But the fact that this is like coming in lower than a movie that came out in like 2006 is pretty bad. And I'm also shocked. Even though I know a lot of people were complaining about the animation style and so on, I made a whole video talking about how Disney adults have turned on this movie, and they have. I really still thought the critic score at least would do a lot better. So I'm genuinely surprised that not even critics seem to be liking this movie. This is actually surprising to me. Evil Connor says, I actually relate to Chicken Little the older I get. Oh man, me too, right? The sky is falling, right? Especially with all this AI stuff, man. It's hard not to feel like it. Anyway, going back to this. So, again, like I said, worse than Chicken Little. I do want to read to you at least some of these reviews because they are, like, pretty damning. I mean, some of them are good. That's why I said that the reception is mixed. Some people do like it. But the ones that are bad are, like, really bad. Just listen to this. Justin Clark says, Wish plays out like the no-frills version of a Disney princess story. Brian says, Disney's Wish is the most aggressive piece of Disney propaganda in years. Disney propaganda, y'all. Ross says, Disney's animation's 60-second film tries to remember the magic of the past. The result is one of the worst animated Disney films in years. The worst animated Disney film in years. And they're not even the only person that says this is their worst movie. I mean, this person called it painful. Painful, y'all. I mean, this movie, just from the trailers, at least looked pretty inoffensive. I don't know how this movie could be painful. But apparently it's overcomplicated, forgettable. I mean, these are pretty, like, damning reviews here. I mean, reviews aren't everything. To be fair, we have looked at movies earlier from this year, like the Mario movie that got a pretty bad Rotten Tomatoes score, but we liked it. So maybe it'll be the same thing here. Audiences might like this movie more than critics. But I have to say, just looking at the critics here, it's not looking good. It's not. I know, right, Sammy Bear? If critics are calling something Disney propaganda, you know something's up. Because they don't say stuff like that. Taylor Evans says, I don't know, man. I've heard they keep making these live actions to maintain contracts. Yeah, that's probably true. Pretty Princess says, someone else was saying how they didn't like it in the chat. I'm sad. Oh no, someone's seen it in my chat? It did technically come out, oh no, it comes out tomorrow. How did someone see it? I am seeing it on Thursday. That's how I'm doing the review on Friday. So make sure you subscribe to see my review on Friday. Jorge Barrios, thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Personally, I don't remember Disney having so many flops continuously. Do you? I feel the Disney suits have no idea what to do at this point. It's flop after flop after flop. I think the last time Disney had this bad of a streak was in the 2000s. They had a pretty bad streak then. They also were doing pretty poorly in like the 70s and 80s. Disney kind of goes in waves. Like occasionally they'll do really well, and then they'll go through periods where they don't do well at all. They're just in a slump at a moment. I'm sure they'll come back at some point. I don't know how or when, but I think they're just in a slump. They've always had times when, you know, things were tough, but they'll fight back eventually. I think it's just going to take a lot of time. Angel Barrera, again, thank you so much for the super chat. Maybe being too inoffensive was the problem. Yeah, it sounds to me, just like reading between the lines in these reviews, this movie suffers from what I've been talking to you guys about, which is that Disney keeps making their stories too weak and inoffensive and not giving us enough, like, meaty plot and character development. And it sounds like this movie is just another, like, thin plot, fine characters. Like, you're just gonna watch it and go, and it's fine. And that sucks. I wanted more than fine. I want more than just fine. But anyway, again, this movie is looking like it's going to open between 45 to 65 million, which is not good, especially when this movie is actually tracking. Oh, sorry. Hold on. I forgot to move this back. Alright, sorry. Like I said, this movie is actually tracking to open between 45 to 65 million dollars. So this is not great considering the fact that this is opening, this has a budget of $200 million. So this isn't even looking like it's going to break even unless there's another elemental situation where people just love it and it just like holds really well week to week, because it's already looking to open extremely low. In fact, if you go back all the way to 2018 when Coco came out, within its 5-day opening, it opened to over $71 million. So that's $71 million in like 2018 compared to what Wish is about to open to here. That's 45 to 65 million. And you can just see like there's a huge drop off in audience here. Like way more people were willing to give Coco a chance than are willing to give Wish a chance. And that's I think that's saying a lot, especially since that only came out like a few years ago. Again, this is why I think we're getting so many sequel announcements from Disney. People like myself have been complaining about it. The fact that we're getting a Frozen 3. The fact that we're getting a Toy Story 5. An Inside Out 2, a Zootopia 2. We're getting a lot of sequels. But this is why. Because when they do give us originals, a lot of times, they just don't do very well. And now, it's looking like they're not even going to be very well received, because the 54% is actually pretty bad. And this is a 54% with, like, they're called, I guess, I've seen people call them, like, the Funko Pop reviewers. Like, this is with people who are like me, who have YouTube channels and blogs. This is, like, the all critic score. If you actually go to the top critic score, it's a 38%. A 38%! This is awful! This is so bad. Like, I can't imagine. This movie just looks so inoffensive from the trailer. I can't imagine what could make this movie so bad that it would be at 38%. I don't know. I'm going to review it. Like I said, stay tuned for my review. I'm also going to post an out-of-theater reaction like I have been. Even on Thanksgiving, so I'm going to work... Oh, sorry. So I am going to work on that day for you guys. But anyway, I can't believe it's at a 38% score. Like, I'm genuinely shocked it's that low. Robert Bell, thank you so much for being a member for an entire month. At this point, I think Disney needs a new CEO who can hopefully steer the ship in a more successful direction. I totally agree with you, Robert Bell. I think Bob Iger coming back was actually not what they needed. Yes, Bob Chapek had his issues, but honestly, I don't think obviously Bob Iger coming back was not the fix this company needed. Because all Bob Iger has done since he's come back has been like, oh, we're going to fix the quality, I'm sure. We're going to stop doing all these Marvel and Star Wars shows and movies. But then they keep releasing a bunch of Star Wars shows and movies, or, Marvel shows and movies. Like, I don't know. I know, obviously, it takes years to make these movies, so I guess we'll see his actual impact in a few years. But so far, it doesn't really look like Bob Iger coming back actually fixed anything. The movies are still not connecting. They're still getting, like, flop after flop after flop. They're still, like, gonna make all these Disney Plus shows that I don't think anyone really cares about. They're still releasing all those Marvel movies I don't think anyone cares about. So what's really been fixed since Bob Iger came back? I totally agree with you, Robert Bell. Nicholas Wilson, thank you so much for the super chat. In the art world, inoffensive is a deep insult. Oh, is it, Nicholas? Oh, man. But honestly, I would describe a lot of Disney content as inoffensive. Just because it just seems like they're playing it so safe that it just comes across as like, it's okay. It's inoffensive storytelling, which I feel like, I don't know, man. Maybe you gotta offend me a little bit. Just make me feel something. I said Elemental is not a flop. I've been using Elemental as an example because that's actually an example of something that almost was a flop, but then people liked it enough that it was able to like at least break even. I don't think this is going to happen to Wish, is what I'm saying. Again, Wish is actually supposed to be like a huge deal for Disney. Not just because it's another Disney animated movie, but it's actually specifically, this movie was made to celebrate Disney's 100-year this movie was made to celebrate Disney's 100-year anniversary. So this wasn't just any movie. This movie was literally supposed to be like a branding tool to be like, hey guys, don't you remember Disney and all these past movies we've done that you used to love? I mean, there's even, apparently, this movie's full of, like, Easter eggs and cameos from other Disney animated movies that they've made in the past. So this movie is supposed to be, like I said in my video, it's supposed to be for the Disney adults. It's supposed to be full of member berries. Again, it's literally supposed to be celebrating 100 years of Disney. This isn't just any Disney animated film. This is supposed to be, like, a big deal. And the fact that they're still struggling to get people to care about this movie is really sad. And I think it shows you just how, like, weak Disney animation and just the Disney brand right now is in general. Like, I don't think it's been in this low of a point since the early 2000s. And even then, I think it might be lower than that at this point. Straight Studio says, I think about other Wish on a Star movies like The Search for Christopher Robin, and I don't see this holding up. You know, I did see that live-action Christopher Robin movie that came out recently. I actually really liked that movie. That's like one Disney movie I thought was like actually pretty good. Joshua Munn says Sony is hanging on by a thread. DreamWorks had that Teenage Kraken movie flop. A24 is too small to flop. LOL. Yeah, I mean, like I said, all of these studios are having problems, but Disney in particular is having a very uniquely bad year. Rusty Shackelford says, Disney should have celebrated their 100-year anniversary movie by making a 2D film. Missed an opportunity. I think that's why they made this movie a hybrid of 2D and 3D. I think they were trying to make this like a nostalgic Disney Renaissance throwback, but I just think it backfired on them because I think they tried to compromise too much. Like they wanted to do something different and unique with their animation style, but they didn't want to commit too far and like actually do something different, so they kind of went halfway, and that's why we kind of have this like in-between like animation style that kind of still looks like their typical style, but with like a weird filter on it. I think they didn't go far enough with it, and that's why it's off-putting to people. But anyway, I do want to get to my member question because we've already talked for almost an hour. So, I'm actually going to talk about the Marvels because I asked you guys, with the Marvels declining so much at the box office, do you think that Marvel or the MCU will ever be able to reach the heights that it once had? And if so, what will it take? So, of course, as always, I have a lot of great comments here. If you guys want to be a member, just press the join button at the bottom of the screen. It really does help the channel. Plus, you get to comment on these community posts on the community page, and you get a shout out in all of my live streams. So please do consider becoming a member. So anyway, Katie Brooks says, I don't think it's all downhill from here. I think Marvel is aware of their issues, and like someone commented a few posts ago, they just don't need to get through what they've already got scheduled to come before they can really begin to course correct. But look at all the content they have to come out before then, though. Like all the Disney Plus shows, the movies, I feel like it's a lot. Yeah, I know there's so much that they're contractually obligated to release, but it's just so much, and so much mid-content that I think it's too much, honestly. I don't think people are going to care anymore by the time they've gotten through it all. I think they honestly should just cancel a lot of this stuff. Marvel may not get back to top status, but I think if they actually work to steer the ship around, meaning new writers, better characters, a more cohesive storyline, they might definitely redeem themselves. I like how you put it. Like, you're like, I don't think they'll ever come back to the top, but they might redeem themselves. I think that's a good way to put it. I don't think they'll ever return back to 2019 peak levels. But you're right, they might be able to redeem themselves at least. Because right now, Marvel's kind of a joke. Like, right now, especially if you're not a Marvel fan, you probably associate Marvel movies with, like not so great quality and, you know, a lot of really lame jokes and stuff like that. Marvel's reputation is pretty much in the crapper at this point. I think the best that honestly Marvel can do at this point is probably just at least turn their reputation around, which is in their hands. All they have to do to change their reputation is just release like a string of really well-received movies across at least a few years. Like, it's going to take a few years to build back that reputation, but if they can do that, I think they can at least redeem themselves, as you said. So that's a great point, and thank you for the comment. Jorge Barrios, thank you so much for the super chat. This should have made an animated film like the short they released on Disney Plus with all the characters. Oh, you're talking about Wish. Oh, I can see that. Wish being an animated short? I don't know. Honestly, I could understand why they wanted Wish to be a whole movie, especially since it's supposed to celebrate the 100-year anniversary. I understand why they'd want more than just a short to celebrate that. But it looks like the movie, again, I haven't seen it yet, so maybe I'll change my mind. But it does look like, at least, this movie is like, the plot is just not thick enough. Like, the plot is very thin, and that it doesn't warrant a whole movie, even though it should. That's what I'm a little worried about, at least. But thank you for the super chat. Prototype says Marvel should just have better quality assurance. It's not that hard. You would think so. But they looked at freaking Quantumania, and they thought it was good. Apparently, the executives they looked at Quantumania, and they thought that movie was going to be a hit. So you can say all they need is quality assurance, but who's doing the quality checking? Because there was a person who quality checked Quantumania, and they thought that shit was good. So, you know, we don't know. I think they need a bit more than just quality checks. I think they need to redo how they develop movies from the ground up. First of all, start with the script. None of this fix it in post. Let's actually start with the script. Let's start there. But anyway, Aster Flowers says, no, I don't believe they will or can. I really believe the Loki series was the thing holding the current MCU together. He has always been my favorite part of Marvel, and the way his character arc finished was phenomenal. A part of me wonders how that will all tie into Secret Wars. The potential with his new place as the god of stories and the possibility of him seeing his brother again are the only things that remotely interest me. Well, Aster, the reason why Loki is the only thing that interests you is because I feel like Loki has been one of the few Marvel projects recently that actually made you care about their characters. Again, the Marvels was such like a breezy, like, fun movie, but it didn't really make you care about their characters that much, or at least not for me. Maybe I cared about Miss Marvel a little bit, but that's only because I liked Iman Vellani. But like with the Loki series, there was actually some like in-depth character development, some good writing that made you like understand characters like ethos and what they wanted. That's why you care about Loki, because he was actually well written. That's all they have to do, to just make these characters well written. It really is that easy. Cheetah Viper says, I can't be at the stream today. Oh, I'm sorry. I still have hope Marvel might regain its glory. It will take a complete new direction and writers to make it happen. They need to realize what made the Iron Man age popular. They need men to be strong and smart, as well as women to be multidimensional. That is a huge one that, yeah, I can't say enough. I think that the way at this point, I honestly think how they write both men and women are pretty bad. It's like they forgot how men and women act in the real world because they're so obsessed with trying to show how they think men and women should act in the real world. It's very weird. But yeah, totally agree with you. Rusty Shackelford says, no, I believe the MCU has dug their own grave at this point. But also, thank you for the membership. It's my birthday today. I've officially entered my old head era. Rusty, congrats and happy birthday. And big 30, it's not old. You're not too old. Don't say that about yourself. You're okay. But anyway, congrats and happy birthday. And it sucks that you think MCU has dug their own grave, but you might be right about that. Nicholas Wilson says, I've said before, they need to take a break before they start over, but I doubt they'll quite reach the high they peaked at. At the height of the current MCU, the other thing they desperately need to do is stop blaming the audience. That's so true. I just saw an article recently where the director Nia DaCosta for the Marvels She was like, oh yeah, the Marvels Prancer. Oh my god. Stop it. Sorry. I saw an article recently where Nia DaCosta, the director, was like, "Oh yeah, this movie. There's a passion. There's a certain segment of the fan base that is, homophobic, racist, all of this stuff." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I really wish, really all people at Disney would stop calling their fans like every ist and phobe under the sun for not liking their movies. I don't understand how they don't understand." How that only drives people away and doesn't really endear people to them. Like, that is part of the reason why people are turning away from the MCU. Dr. Shonda, thank you so much for becoming a member. Thank you for joining. Now you get to comment on these community posts and support the channel, so thank you. Caldania says, if you're not happy and successful by 30, you're a failure. I know a lot of people really believe that. We gotta stop this myth, guys. We gotta stop it. Prototype says Prancer doesn't like the current state of the MCU either. I know, right? Isn't it time every time we talk about the MCU, he gotta start barking or something? Maybe he's just really over Marvel too. I don't know. The CoverGirl official says, no, that amount of success is something the MCU will never see again. They have pushed people away by not caring about the quality of their content and have offered nothing to get people excited again. Maybe they can redeem themselves in 10 years, but not likely they will be able to recreate that amount of excitement and success in the MCU. I like that you also said the same thing here as Katie, that they probably won't reach the same success, but they might be able to redeem themselves. I think that's the best that they can hope for at this point. I really do. Desi B says, nah, Marvel reached its peak at a special time in cinema. They carved out a place for themselves, but times are changing. It's time for a new age of cinema to take over. I really do think post-pandemic, you guys know how, this is my own personal theory, but you guys know how there was like the whole Great Resignation thing, like after the pandemic, because apparently a lot of people went through a lot of self-reflection and realized that they needed a lot of change in their lives. I mean, I went through the same thing. That's why I have a YouTube channel. But I think that probably doesn't stop with just like changing careers. I think a lot of people after the pandemic, probably because of the collective trauma we went through, like, just wanted something different in general. So I think that's why all of these IPs and properties and franchises that were really popular pre-pandemic are, like, not as popular now. Because I really do feel like post-pandemic, people are, like, just want a new world. It does feel like a new world. I mean, so it just feels like anything pre-pandemic is, like, almost from like yesteryear at this point, you know? Like it just seems even more ancient than it already is, because I swear the 2 years we were in the pandemic were actually like 10. So I feel like that's part of why all of these franchises are failing. I do feel like the pandemic probably had like some effect on this, at least psychologically, like with people. I really think that's why people are looking for something new. But that's my personal theory. Evil Connor also agrees. That's great. Taylor Evans says, oh, you think the Marvels is like the Dark Phoenix? Dark Phoenix was also pretty bad. That was an awful movie. Okay. Alexander Padilla says, hey, Brittany, and I think Marvel is just going to go downhill from here. Kevin Feige has too many toys that he doesn't know how to utilize them, and he's turning out real crap. I think that it's time that we have someone else lead Marvel, and he should be let go. Always keep up the great. Thank you so much, Alexander. You're always so kind. If they do fire Kevin Feige, the only person I can see taking his spot that wouldn't throw the fan base in turmoil is Jon Favreau. Since he's actually the one that directed the first Iron Man movie, he's happy in the series, so he's already part of the Marvel family. Fans know him. Fans love him. He helped rejuvenate the Star Wars fan base. So I feel like he's the only person that would work if they did fire Kevin Feige. Like, maybe Jon Favreau could be the guy to take over. But here's why I don't think that they're going to get rid of Kevin Feige, at least not anytime soon. He's so much a part of the brand of Marvel, I just can't see how you separate the two. I really don't. when you think about Marvel in the MCU, a lot of times fans also think about Kevin Feige and what Kevin Feige was planning to do with the MCU. Without him, without having that charismatic figurehead, I feel like that's just going to lead a power vacuum that someone's going to have to take over. Someone likable, someone that the fans actually like. And the only other person I can think that could actually fill those shoes is Jon Favreau. Otherwise, I don't think getting rid of Feige is going to work. I think it's just going to throw the whole fan base into chaos, to be honest. Brian, you think anyone would be a good replacement? Oh, Brian, I don't think just anyone. How hard is it to make trash stories? Well, here's the thing. We don't want more trash stories. We want good stories. That's what I'm saying. Prototype says, is Jon Favreau a fan of comic books, though? I don't know. But maybe they'll hire like a second comic book fan with them. I don't know. I just know he's a good director and he has a good eye for making comic book movies. So I feel like if anyone can replace Kevin, maybe him. Maybe. But anyway, Martin Schmidt says, I think they still have a chance. The hype is still there as YouTube is full of videos about Marvel failing. I know, right? I feel like every time I open YouTube, it's just like my whole feed is like, Marvel's declining, the fail of the MCU. There's so many videos out there. But they need new story writers and deep story and full evil villains who won't get defeated by ants. And direct who knows how to do blockbusters, not Oscar movies. Yeah, I think they need better talent. I think they need writers and actors who, A, care about the property that they're working with, but also can bring their own unique vision. One of the reasons why I think Barbie did so well is because it was Greta Gerwig's very specific, unique vision that people wanted to see. I think all of these Marvel movies have such a homogenous identity, other than maybe the James Gunn movies, that you don't really feel a voice in any of these movies anymore, unless it's just Kevin Feige's voice. So I think one of the things that they could do to help the MCU would be to at least maybe get some like notable directors who have actually directed some things that are like good. Not just like some indie people who have directed like one episode in like a small indie film for $2, because that's what they do now. They need to hire people who with experience that know what they're doing. That's got to be like one of the main things they do to change things. But Jorge Barrios, thank you again for the super chat. So deeply appreciated. They should have to do one more Avengers film to bring back the old Avengers for one more. Make a good $1.5 billion and take a break and come back new. Go back in time, give Cap a reason to come back, and give Hugh a last Logan run. I think that's not a bad idea. I think that's kind of what I'm saying I think they should do. I think they should just cancel Kang Dynasty. I keep hearing rumors that they apparently aren't done with Kang, that they might actually just recast the character, which I think is dumb. I think they should take the whole Jonathan Majors criminal past excuse to like just completely move away from the Kang storyline. And if I were running Marvel, that's what I would do. I would cancel Kang, cancel the Kang Dynasty, probably cancel a number of other projects too, and just move straight to Secret Wars. Just get straight to Secret Wars, as you described it. Get all the gang back. Get the OG Avengers back, plus Hugh Jackman, Toby, all the other people they want. And then reboot after that movie, where after that the MCU now takes place in a whole separate universe. And then in that separate universe, just focus on the X-Men and Fantastic Four. That's what I would do. That's what I would do, honestly. I think no one's gonna... they keep trying to, like, build out the Young Avengers and all of these other side B, C, tier list characters that I just don't think are ever going to be super popular. I think they just should cancel all of that stuff. Just cancel all of that stuff. Get to Secret Wars as quickly as you can. Reboot as quickly as you can. And just focus on the X-Men after that. That's what I would do. Thank you so much for the super chat. Getting back to this, Robert Bell says, to be honest, I don't think the current MCU can be saved. The past couple of movies and TV shows, the viewership and box office has declined. I think the best thing for them to do is to take a break for a couple of years, then do a hard reboot and start off with the X-Men as the first superheroes and have them be hated by the public as first, like you said, and eventually work their way up to Avengers. Yes, I feel so very strongly, Robert, that the X-Men have to be hated. I feel like that is like the cornerstone of what makes the X-Men the X-Men. That's why Charles and Xavier are fighting, because the humans don't accept the X-Men, and they're fighting over ideological differences, over like whether they should be out and proud or whether they should hide who they are and assimilate. Like, those are very important cornerstones in the argument over what to do with the X-Men between Charles and Xavier. The only way that will work is if the X-Men themselves are actually hated. And that's why I think the X-Men need to be in their own separate universe. Because it would make no sense for the X-Men in the current MCU 616 universe to be hated. When every human in that universe has been through multiple alien invasions, they've seen witches, they've seen sentient robots, there's a giant, freaking statue sticking out in the middle of the earth. Like, there's nothing about the X-Men that would really shock the average human in the current MCU universe, which I think kind of breaks the whole canon for what the X-Men are. The X-Men have to be outcasts. The X-Men have to be, like, hated by society, so they have to hide who they are. That's what the X-Men is. So this whole, like, I can't see the X-Men ever working by just incorporating them in the existing MCU. They have to be in their own universe. That's the only way they can work, in my opinion. The only way. But anyway, getting back to this. Riru says, I think the MCU needs a long break. This would give them time to focus on better storytelling and characters. With so many comics out there to build off of, I am not sure why they can't get it right. I stopped watching because I just got bored ultimately. It must take a decade or so for everyone to forget all their questionable choices and flops. You know what? If Deadpool 3 really underperforms, like really badly, they might need to just take a break. Like, maybe they won't even be able to get to Secret Wars. Like, if Deadpool 3 can't even do well, they should probably take at least like a 5-year break before they release another movie. I'm that serious. Deadpool 3 is that do or die for them. Hi, Timmy. Getting back to this, though. Arvin says, Happy Thanksgiving, Brittany. I mean, Ant-Man 3 was awful. Then Guardians 3 was fantastic. After that, we got Secret Invasion, which we don't talk about. Next was Loki, which was perfect, and now Marvels, which flopped. It's 50-50. That's fair. There's still some good stuff. Some. If they want to fix anything, their last chance is projects in 2025. They can reboot peacefully, but if Kevin fails, they have to ask Jonathan Majors... Oh, no. What are they going to do? Jonathan Majors to film a non-suspicious documentary about giving advice to children, then stop the universal war and save the day. Another day Jonathan Majors just slayed. You know what? I want that movie now. I want a movie of Jonathan Majors going on a various fake quests to save fake fights around a lot of very real high schools. That's such a weird video. Again, if you guys don't know what we're talking about that video where it looks like Jonathan Majors staged an intervention, like he prevented this high school fight, but it looks very, very fake. Now it's becoming a running joke. But yeah, I at this point, I want a whole movie just full of Jonathan Majors in that paperboy hat doing all this fake stuff, because that video was just pure gold. More entertaining than Quantumania, honestly. But yeah, I get what you're saying. I still think that some of the misses that Marvel's going through, like Ant-Man 3, like Secret Invasion, like the Marvels, I think the fact that their misses are just so bad, they kind of overshadow the hits, honestly. Like, yes, Guardians 3 was really good. In fact, I still think Guardians 3 is my favorite movie of the year. But it can't wash the taste of Quantumania and the Marvels and Secret Invasion out of my mouth. You know, it's not good enough to cancel the other three. So that's why when I say I think Marvel, the only way to turn them around is just like having a lot of well-received movies in a row. Like, they need more than just one Guardians. They need like 5 Guardians in a row. That's the only thing that's going to help them. Oh, am I being shady, Evil Cotter? I'm just being honest. Just being honest. Marilyn Cherry says they cannot make it that big again right now. Maybe after a long break for a new generation, there will be hype. I like how most of you guys just agree they need a break. Maybe that's all I need. Just a 5-10 minute break. I mean, not 10 minute. 10-year. They need like a very long break. A Star Wars level break, honestly. Red Star says, I don't think this will be as popular as much as this time. Sure, they will always make profit, but their charm and ability to easily capture audiences' attention is gone. Yeah, they've completely lost the attention of general audiences for sure. And I honestly don't know if they will ever completely get it back. Maybe for Spider-Man, but I don't know. Cherry Blossom Fantasy says, not likely in my opinion. People are smelling the desperation and their bring back the dead marketable characters plan and will be turned off by just that. People are also starting to see that MCU never respected the audience in the way they thought they could release crap films and still grab money right out of people's pockets. Will people want to continue supporting that? Probably not. It's really unbelievable how such a large corporation can suck so badly at its job. But that's what happens when you let money rot your soul. I love how honest you're being. Like, this is pretty savage here. Their greatest saving grace at this point are probably Spider-Man and Guardians, but even those have been hits and misses. Like, is there an ultimate end to those franchises? Probably never. Maybe the Guardians might be done, but I don't think Spider-Man will ever be over. Where are the characters headed? Or are they going to keep them alive for as long as they can milk them dry? Yes, that's definitely the answer. If they can release something to the level of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man's 1 and 2, revolutionary, groundbreaking, and with tons of heart and character, then we can talk. I don't even know with how Marvel is currently structured and like how they make their movies, if it's even possible for them to make something on the same level as a Spider-Man 2. Because how they make films right now is like, oh, we'll just fix it in post. Oh, we'll just like do whatever here, have a green screen here, wear a green screen suit here, and we'll just figure out what happens later. Oh, we don't need a script. What's a script? Oh, I'm sorry, Tom Holland. You don't know how this movie ends? Well, tough. We'll let you know when it happens. They need to stop doing that. They need to stop just how they make movies from the just early stages of development. They have to change everything about how they make movies. Because how they make movies right now, we are never getting a Spider-Man 2. And they need several Spider-Man 2s in a row to get back where they were. So they have a lot of changing to do, definitely. But thank you for the comment. RuPaul's Drag Race Superfan says, hey Brittany, no, I don't think they will ever reach the heights of Phase 3. They have done too much damage to the brand. By putting politics in their films, they have made the films feel like the real world. Also, the trend that Marvel directors has in recent years on blaming any movie with a POC or woman lead that didn't succeed, that everyone who doesn't like it is a racist or homophobic or any of the phobics, has caused people to lose interest. They also have the toxic fans that if you don't like a movie with a person of color, they will literally send you death threats and dig up old tweets to cancel you. Also, they are making so much content. In my opinion, even if Deadpool is a success, Marvel is still too damaged to succeed. I actually agree with all of your points here. The fact that, if Deadpool, even if Deadpool does succeed, I don't think that's going to stop, like, Thunderbolts from flopping, you know? Deadpool 3 is its own separate thing. It wasn't a separate universe before they got, bought by Disney. So that's why I think Deadpool 3 has the most chance to succeed, even though I'm still nervous about it. But yeah, totally agree with a lot of this. And I do agree that how they're approaching movies and storytelling is they're thinking like, oh, how do we add representation and add all of these elements to it first, and then we kind of figure out like the story afterward. Like, I feel like they're doing story second, politics first. And if you're gonna add politics, okay, there's a way to do it well. Just make sure the story itself is solid so that people are still entertained. No one's gonna listen to your message if your movie sucks. And no one went to go see the Marvels because the Marvels isn't that great, and that's gonna help. That movie's gonna hurt every woman-led and diverse woman-led movie that might have gotten greenlit in the future because of how badly it's doing. But this movie was set up poorly to fail from the beginning. Because it starred freaking 2 characters from Disney Plus shows. And that whole strategy was a failure from the beginning. So it was all inevitable. Like, look at everything that they put in Deadpool 3 to try to make Deadpool 3 a hit. Like, they're getting all the X-Men back. They're putting on all these cameos. Heck, freaking Ryan Reynolds got Taylor Swift to be in that movie. Like, they are literally throwing everything in the kitchen sink into Deadpool 3 to try to make that movie a hit. What did they put in the Marvels to try to make it a hit? They put in 2 characters no one outside of the hardcore geek fan base has heard of, and then they gave it an awful villain that also no one has heard of. They set up that movie to fail. That's why I'm like, I hate how Disney does representation, because they're like, oh, look at this woman-led movie. Why didn't you support it? Are you sexist? Do you hate yourself? And I'm just like, no. Firstly, it sucks, and then secondly, you put nothing in your movie to even make it exciting. So of course it's gonna fail. Like, you set it up to fail. So I get upset about this stuff. But anyway, Rhea Lynn says, no way this will reach MCU Phase 3 heights again. Movies aren't going to make that much money anymore for a while unless it becomes a cultural phenomenon. I actually agree with you. I actually think the fact that Barbenheimer became such a big thing, by the way, just in my research, trying to put all this stuff together for my stream, I found out that there's a whole Wikipedia page for Barbenheimer now. Like, it's officially a thing. But anyway, I think because Barbenheimer became such a huge cultural moment, I think it did set a standard for a lot of people that the only way they will go see something else if it's at that same level of hype. So we'll see, but I actually agree with you there. I think, honestly, 10 years from now, here's my very bleak future predictions for this industry, okay? You're not gonna like it, but here are my predictions. So, I think 10 years from now, I think there will be like maybe 1 major event movie coming out per month. Maybe 2. But like just 1 to 2 major event movies coming out per month, and then that's it. Not even like the other weeks are full of like smaller mid-sized films. Like, no, any of those smaller mid-sized movies will probably just go to like a specialty cinema. I think I'm talking about like for mainstream blockbuster theaters. I think it's going to be just like only the big event films, and that's it. There won't be room for anything else. I think that's where we're heading towards. I think it's going to become like almost like going to a Broadway show. Like, you might even dress up a bit. Like, people are already starting to dress up to go to the theater. People were dressing up for Oppenheimer. Like, people were dressing up just because they wanted to dress up and make it seem like an event. So I can see that becoming like more and more of a thing too. Heck, if movie theaters even go out of business, and a lot of these theater chains are looking like they might go like completely bankrupt soon, I even see a scenario where like we might get like new like forms of theaters, like new kinds of auditoriums and like places we can go see movies at. I think a lot's going to change, basically. I've thought about this a lot, if you can tell. But anyway, Disney, Marvel, Star Wars has lost a lot of public faith lately, so they have a tough hill to climb to get back in good graces. Superhero films will eventually get back in favor, but it won't be for a while. Beyond the Spider-Verse and Deadpool 3 at this point are the only superhero films with Marvel characters that people are interested in. Sony milking the Spider-Man universe, all to retain the rights to Spider-Man away from Marvel, will not work for them reputation-wise in the long run. That could be true. Right now, Spider-Man's on a high, but if they continue to milk Spider-Man for all that it's worth, and they probably are, I could see them, even burning that bridge too. They almost did with Andrew Garfield. Like, people really like Andrew more now after No Way Home, but there's a reason why he didn't get a full trilogy. People really, especially myself included, I really didn't like that Amazing Spider-Man film, the second one. I thought the second one was actually really bad, or just not that great. So they almost ruined Spider-Man once. They could do it again. That whole quote about you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. They could totally do that to Spider-Man. I just hope they don't, because I really like that character. But anyway, thank you so much. I forgot. WTF News. I promised you guys WTF News. Let me get to that. So yes. First bit of WTF News, because I actually have 2 things. Taika Waititi continues to be a weirdo? I don't really know how else to describe this, but he keeps saying some of the most, don't know. I feel like he's purposely trying to get a reaction out of people. Like, I feel like he's purposely trying to piss off people. He's trying to get on YouTube thumbnails. He's trying to become, like, this, like, openly controversial person. I don't know why, because I feel like every time I go online now, I'm like, oh, Taika Waititi said something new stupid. And I'm like, okay, what did he say now? So this time, he's comparing himself to the Bible. But anyway, he just has a new film coming out, and a lot of people are complaining that the events aren't really accurate to the true story that it's supposed to be based off of. And this is what he said. I mean, in the Bible, they took real things that happened and then added, you know, magic. I'm just like the guy who wrote the Bible, bro. You guys, has anyone seen, what's that movie? It also had Ryan Reynolds in it. It was, I have, with the glasses, it had, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Oh man, I'm drawing a blank. With the glass is like, Free Guy, okay. If you guys have seen Free Guy, and you've seen Taika Waititi's character in Free Guy, I feel like he wasn't really acting in that movie. I feel like how Taika Waititi acts in that movie, and he's like kind of the villain of that film, by the way. I feel like that's how he actually acts in real life. Annoying, jerkish, probably a coke addict. I mean, the addicts are, you know, the behavior is all there, is what I'm saying. Why would you say this about yourself? First, he's like, oh yeah, my Star Wars movie is totally gonna piss people off. And now he's like, oh, I'm just like the guy who wrote the Bible. I'm like, are you trying to make people upset at you? Like, what is this behavior? Like, what are you doing here? But anyway, I just had to share this because I thought this comment was pretty messed up. But anyway, oh my god, Titan Voyager, thank you so much for becoming a member. Genuinely appreciate it. Also, QAR, thank you so much for the super chat. It's your first super chat too, and you just wanted to support the channel. Wow, that's incredible. Thank you so much for your support. Really, really appreciate it. You guys are so great. I genuinely appreciate you guys. But anyone surprised by this Taika Waititi behavior? I feel like he's been slowly just like not giving an F anymore about coming across as a jerk, because there's no other way to explain this. Patrick says, is he high or what? Maybe. Potato Girl says, Taika's head got way too big. I love Hunt for the Wilder People so much. I think that's what it is. I think after the whole like Thor Ragnarok hype, and then he did Jojo Rabbit, which is actually a really good movie. I think he just like got so like conceited and thought so much of himself after that. I think that is what happened. I think he was like, you know what, I can do no wrong. Everyone thinks I'm so great, right? I feel like that must be what happened to him, because it seems like way back then, when, you know, Thor Ragnarok had just came out, he did seem nearly this insufferable. So I don't know what happened here. But it's pretty messed up. But anyway, now I have to move on to the biggest WTF news, because I felt hoodwinked, I felt tricked, and of course, it's about Snoop Dogg. I told you guys, remember, I made this WTF news last week, but Snoop Dogg came out and said he was giving up smoking, and he made this very dramatic statement where he said, after much consideration and conversation with my family, I decided to give up smoke. Please respect my privacy at this time. And we all got a good laugh because he was very serious about this, and like this news literally like rocked the internet. Like people were literally like, oh my god, Snoop Dogg quit smoking. Like this actually became national news. But guess what, guys? It was all just for a commercial. It's for a commercial for a smokeless stove. This was all just a publicity stunt. He never actually gave up smoking. It was all just a commercial. Look at this. Look at this mess.
I'm giving up smoke.
He lied.
I know what you're thinking. Snoop, smoke is kind of your whole thing. But I'm done with it. Done with the coffin and my clothes.
Sorry. Why isn't it playing? No.
Smoke is kind of your whole thing. But I'm done with it. Done with the coffin and my clothes smelling all sticky icky. I'm going smokeless. Solo stove fix fire. They take out the smoke. Clever.
That's all that was for. It it's an ad for an oven. He didn't actually give up anything. He fooled the world. He fooled me. He fooled the internet. For this PR stunt. For this. I mean, even in the chat, you guys were like, "No, Snoop, no." And this is what this is all it was for. It was a publicity stunt for a commercial. I feel played. I know it is weird. I feel played. But anyway, it's also funny though. Not gonna lie, low key, it's funny. But still, I feel played. I feel definitely played. But anyway, we all fell for it. I know every single one here fell for it. He smoked 500 joints a day? Oh my god. Oh my god. Anyway, moving on. That was it. I told you guys I had WTF news, so that was it. Thank you everyone for coming to my show today. This was a great show. I will see you guys tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time again. There will be no show Wednesday and Thursday. So the show tomorrow will be the last show until Friday when we have our live Wish review. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the live stream tomorrow. I'm also going to make several segments of these live streams as I've been doing. Jorge Barrios, thank you so much again for the super chat. Can you do a reaction to Tyrone Young Avengers Are Coming, please? Want to hear your thoughts. Jorge, you know what? Just for you, maybe I might bring it up. Maybe. I'll look into it, because if the video is too long or if there's a lot of other stuff, we'll see. But I will check it out for you, Jorge. I will. But anyway, again, I am going to have the stream tomorrow and then the stream Friday, so this has been great. Thank you all for the super chats and everything. It was very, very kind of you. Appreciate the generosity. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Yes.